People like you do not belong here. Claire Whitmore said it quietly, but the room heard her anyway. That was the strange thing about power. It did not always need volume. Sometimes it only needed marble floors, glass walls, cameras blinking red in the corners, and 100 well-dressed people pretending not to listen. Isaiah Brooks stood at the edge of the VIP lounge on the 60th floor of the Whitmore Civic Technologies Tower, one hand holding a small silver bracelet, the other still marked with dust from the service elevator. His maintenance uniform was clean but faded at the sleeves. His boots carried the dull scuff of a man who had spent most of his life standing where other people only walked through. Behind Claire, investors held champagne flutes beneath chandeliers shaped like falling rain. A senator laughed too loudly near the west window. A camera crew adjusted its lights for the product launch that was supposed to change the future of city security. And in the center of it all stood Claire Whitmore, 34 years old, white suit sharp as folded paper, blonde hair pinned back, phone glowing in her palm like a second pulse. She had built a company people feared and admired. She had learned to read a balance sheet faster than most people read a menu. She had also learned, somewhere along the way, to mistake distance for safety. Isaiah looked at her for one long second. He did not lower his eyes. He did not raise his voice. He simply smiled. Not a wide smile. Not a mocking one. Just a small, tired curve at the corner of his mouth. The kind of smile a man gives when the world repeats itself and expects him to be surprised. Evan Cole, the head of private security, stepped closer with his hand already lifted, ready to escort him out. "You heard Miss Whitmore," Evan said. Service staff used the back corridor. Isaiah turned the bracelet gently between his fingers. A child's bracelet. Tiny stars engraved along the clasp. "I found this under table 12, he said. "Figured somebody might be missing it." His voice was low. Careful. The way a black father learns to make his calm visible in rooms waiting to misunderstand him. Claire's eyes flicked to the bracelet, then back to his uniform. Something in her face tightened, but not enough to become regret. "Not yet. Leave it with security," she said. "And leave the floor." Before Isaiah could answer, a small cry rose from behind the dessert table. It was not loud, but it cut through the polished noise with the clean panic only a child can make. Heads turned, then turned away just as quickly. Important people were very skilled at not seeing things that did not concern them. A little girl in a navy dress stood near the curtain wall, cheeks wet, one hand pressed to her chest where the bracelet had probably been. She looked 6, maybe 7. Too small for that room. Too frightened by all that glass. Evan sighed, annoyed by the interruption. Claire glanced toward the child, then toward her assistant, as if every human need required delegation. Isaiah moved before anyone else did. Slowly, no sudden gestures. He walked past the champagne, past the investors, past Claire Whitmore's cold stare, and lowered himself to one knee several feet from the girl. "Hey," he said softly. "You are not in trouble." The girl hiccuped and looked at the bracelet in his hand. "That is mine." "I thought so." He held it out, palm open. Stars usually know where they belong. Her fingers trembled as she took it. Isaiah did not touch her wrist. He waited. "Too many people," she whispered. He nodded like that made perfect sense. "Yeah, sometimes a room gets too loud and forgets there are hearts inside it." The girl stopped crying. Not all at once. Just enough for the room to notice. Claire noticed too. Her phone buzzed again, but this time she did not look down. Isaiah helped the child point toward her mother near the press wall, then stood, smoothing one hand over his uniform. For a moment, no one spoke. The bracelet had returned to its owner. The child had returned to safety. And the man who supposedly did not belong had become the only person in the room who knew what to do. Then the lights above the stage flickered once. Twice. The giant launch screen behind Claire turned black. A red warning symbol appeared where her company logo had been. Somewhere behind the walls, the security doors. Locked with a sound like a verdict. Isaiah looked at the screen, then at the ceiling cameras, and the smile finally left his face. The sound came first. Not an alarm. Not a siren. Just one clean mechanical click after another, moving through the 60th floor like a row of locks deciding whom they trusted. People laughed nervously at first, because rich rooms always tried to turn fear into etiquette. Then the second screen went dark. Then the third. On the main stage, the red warning symbol pulsed over the frozen image of Claire Whitmore's face, magnified 30 feet wide above a room full of investors, city officials, and cameras that were still recording. Claire did not move. Her shoulders stayed square. Her chin stayed lifted. But Isaiah saw the change in her hand. 2 fingers tightened around her phone until the knuckles went pale. Evan Cole barked into his radio, asking the control room what had happened. The radio answered with static. Priya Shah pushed through the crowd, her tablet clutched against her chest, eyes already scanning numbers. "Claire," she said under her breath, "the access system is down. Press feed is still live. The west elevators are locked." The little girl Isaiah had helped was now in her mother's arms, safe but staring at the ceiling like the building had become a storm cloud. Isaiah looked toward the emergency exit panel beside the service hallway. Its light was red. That was wrong. Emergency exits were not supposed to depend on corporate permission. He took 1 step toward it. Evan blocked him immediately. "Where do you think you are going?" Isaiah looked past him, not at him. "That panel should be green. I did not ask for your opinion." "No," Isaiah said softly. "You just need it." Evan's jaw tightened. Around them, the room began to lose its polished rhythm. A woman near the bar pressed her phone to the glass, searching for signal. A councilman demanded to know whether this was part of the presentation. Someone from the press whispered the word breach, and that one word moved faster than any announcement could. Claire heard it. Her eyes flashed toward Isaiah. He was not panicking. That bothered her more than if he had been. Panic was easy to categorize. Calm was not. "You," she said. Isaiah turned. "You looked at the cameras before the screens failed." He said nothing. "Why?" she asked. A dozen faces turned with her question. Isaiah breathed once through his nose. He could feel the old instinct telling him to step back, stay small, let powerful people drown in problems they had created. He could also picture Maya sitting outside Lincoln Elementary with her purple backpack between her shoes, waiting for him beneath the awning because rain was in the forecast and her teacher always left at 5:30. "Because the cameras blinked out of sequence," he said. Then the stage screen dropped before the side monitors. "That means your display system is not the problem. It is your building access grid pulling priority from the presentation server." Priya stared at him. "That is not possible. Those networks are separated." Isaiah glanced at the red exit panel. They were supposed to be. Claire took a slow step closer. Up close, her perfume was sharp and expensive, but beneath it was something human. Coffee. Stress. A sleepless morning hidden under money. "How would you know that?" she asked. Isaiah looked at the bracelet now back on the child's wrist, then at the sealed doors, then at the crowd pretending not to be scared. "Because somebody made a bad shortcut." Evan gave a short laugh. "He fixes light fixtures." Isaiah finally looked at him. "Tonight, I was fixing light fixtures." The sentence landed flat and clean. No pride. No apology. Priya swallowed. "Claire, the city officials are trapped on this floor. If that feed stays live and those doors stay locked, the contract is gone before the keynote starts." Claire's face did not break, but the air around her did. For the first time since Isaiah had entered the VIP lounge, she seemed less like a statue and more like a woman standing too close to the edge of her own empire. Her phone buzzed again. She ignored it. Then she looked at the man she had ordered out of the room only minutes before. The words cost her something. Everyone could hear that too. "Mr. Brooks," she said, "careful now," as if his name had weight. "What exactly did you see?" Isaiah held her gaze. There was no smile this time. Enough to know this was not an accident. A hush spread outward. Even Evan stopped moving. Claire's eyes sharpened, but fear slipped through before she could bury it. "Can you stop it?" Isaiah looked toward the service corridor, where the maintenance terminal sat behind a locked utility door. "Maybe." Claire waited. The whole room waited. Isaiah checked the time on the wall clock. 5:12. Maya would already be watching the rain clouds. "But I am not touching your system while your security chief treats me like a trespasser." Evan started to speak. Claire lifted one hand, and he stopped. That silence said more about power than any speech could have. She stepped aside, opening the path herself. "Then show me." Isaiah walked past her without hurry, through the kind of room that had just been told he did not belong, while every eye followed the man who might be the only reason they got out. The utility door was not meant to impress anyone. It sat behind the service corridor with chipped gray paint, a brass handle worn smooth by hands nobody ever thanked, and a small sign that read "Authorized Personnel Only." Isaiah stopped in front of it. Evan reached for his key card first, Too quickly, like the motion could recover what his mouth had lost. The reader blinked red. He tried again. Red. A third time. Red. Somewhere back in the VIP lounge, the crowd groaned as another screen failed. Isaiah looked at the reader, then at Evan. Your own system does not recognize you. Evan's face darkened. Claire stepped forward and pressed her executive card to the panel. Red. For 1 second, no one breathed. It was a small thing, a light refusing to change color, but it stripped the room of all its costumes. Titles did not matter to a locked door. Money did not matter. Neither did the sharp cut of Claire Whitmore's suit or the polished authority in Evan's voice. The building had made them all equal, and it had done it without raising its voice. Priya glanced at her tablet. The control room is locked out too. Claire turned to Isaiah. Can you open it? Isaiah knelt by the panel and removed the small screwdriver clip to his belt. I can open the cover. The question is whether your legal department wants me to. Claire's eyes held on him. She understood the sentence beneath the sentence. A few minutes earlier, she had treated him like a problem. Now she needed him to become evidence. You have my permission, she said. Isaiah did not move. Say it clearly. Evan scoffed. Are you serious? Isaiah kept his eyes on Claire. Very. The corridor hummed with emergency lights. Red washed across Claire's face, then faded, then returned. In that uneven glow, she looked younger for a moment. Not softer, just less protected. Mr. Brooks, she said, each word measured, I am authorizing you to access this panel and help restore building safety. Isaiah nodded once. Thank you. He opened the cover. Inside, the wiring was clean, expensive, and wrong in a way only rushed arrogance could make wrong. He shifted one cable, tapped the manual release node, and listened. Nothing. He frowned. Luis Ramirez arrived breathless with a portable tool bag, his headset hanging around his neck. I brought what I could, he said, then stopped when he saw Isaiah studying the panel. Wait, you know this architecture? Isaiah did not look up. I know bad architecture. Luis blinked. Then, slowly, he handed him a diagnostic bridge. Isaiah took it, connected it, and watched a string of access logs crawl across the tiny screen. His face changed by almost nothing. But Claire noticed the almost. What is it? She asked. Isaiah scrolled back. Somebody gave the building a command it should never accept. Priya leaned closer. From outside. Isaiah paused. No, the word fell heavy. He tapped the screen. Executive credential. Internal route. Whoever did this did not break in. They walked through the front door. Claire's mouth went still. Behind her, Evan shifted his weight. It was small. Too small for most people. But Isaiah had spent years reading rooms that could turn against him. He heard breath. He saw hands. He noticed who looked angry and who looked afraid. He also noticed Claire looking at Evan for the first time not as an employee, but as a possibility. Evan snapped. This is ridiculous. We are taking technical analysis from a maintenance worker now. Isaiah finally stood. No, you are taking it from the logs. He turned the diagnostic screen so Priya could see. Priya's face drained. Claire, she whispered, he is right. Another click echoed from the far end of the hallway. Then a green light appeared above the stairwell door. One door released. Not all of them. Just one. Enough to prove he could do it. Enough to make everyone understand he had been telling the truth. From the lounge came a wave of relieved voices as staff began guiding the child and older guests toward the stairs. Claire watched Isaiah replace the panel cover with careful hands. No performance. No victory speech. He did not even glance toward the investors who had begun whispering about him like he had become a rumor with boots. How many doors can you release? Claire asked. All of them, he said. But if I do it too fast, whoever planted this will know we found the route and erase the trail. Priya stared at him, stunned. You are preserving evidence. Isaiah checked the time again. 5:21. Rain tapped faintly against the glass beyond the corridor. I am preserving the truth, he said. Evidence is just what people call truth when they finally need it. Claire lowered her eyes for half a second. It was not surrender. Not yet. But something in her had stopped defending the insult and started hearing the man. Then her phone lit up with the name Marion Bell, chair of the board. Claire ignored it. Isaiah noticed that too. He handed the diagnostic bridge back to Luis. I can get your people out safely. Then I am leaving. Claire looked at him. Leaving? My daughter is waiting at school. The sentence quieted her more than the malfunction had. Outside the service corridor, The room remained trapped in money, cameras, and fear. But here, under red emergency lights, Claire Whitmore finally seemed to understand that the man she needed most had never been trying to enter her world. He had only been trying to return a bracelet, do his job, and get home to his child. Isaiah did not wait for Claire to answer. He turned back to the exposed panel, fingers moving with quiet precision, and began releasing the doors one at a time. Not all at once. Not in a panic. Floor by floor, section by section, like a man untying knots without breaking the rope. The first stairwell opened fully. Then the east conference corridor. Then the service elevator reset to emergency mode. In the VIP lounge, the crowd started moving under Priya's instructions, no longer elegant, just grateful. The senator removed his jacket and helped an older woman toward the stairs. A venture capitalist who had refused to make eye contact with Isaiah 10 minutes earlier now whispered, "Is he with your security team?" No one answered. Some truths were embarrassing when spoken too late. Claire stood behind Isaiah in the corridor, watching the back of his faded uniform as if it were a document she had failed to read. His name was stitched above the pocket in navy thread. Brooks. Simple. Human. She wondered how many names she had walked past in her own building without seeing them. The thought irritated her because it sounded too much like guilt. Guilt was inefficient. Guilt slowed decisions. That was what she had always believed. Then Isaiah glanced at the clock again, and the belief cracked a little more. "You said your daughter is waiting," Claire said. "Yes." "Where?" "Lincoln Elementary. 8 miles from here." Priya looked up. At this hour, with rain, that could take 40 minutes. Isaiah did not respond. He isolated another command and released the south doors. On the diagnostic screen, an executive credential flashed again, then disappeared behind a masked process. He caught it before it vanished completely and copied the log to the local buffer. Luis watched with open admiration now. "You have done this before." Isaiah's hands paused for the first time. "Not long. Just enough for the past to enter the hallway. I used to design municipal access systems," he said. Claire's eyes moved toward him. "For whom?" "Hale Meridian Infrastructure." Priya's head snapped up. "That Hale Meridian?" Isaiah gave a small nod. "Before the lawsuit." The word lawsuit made Evan shift again. Claire noticed. Isaiah noticed Claire noticing. For a second, the whole corridor seemed to hold its breath. Around something larger than a malfunction. "What lawsuit?" Claire asked. Isaiah removed the bridge and reconnected it to the secondary port. The kind that makes recruiters stop calling. His voice stayed even, but there was a tiredness under it that did not ask to be pitted. "I found a vulnerability in a public transit contract. Reported it. They buried it. I refused to sign off. Then suddenly I was difficult, unstable, not a culture fit. After that, every interview ended the same way." He gave the panel a final tap. Another green light appeared. "So now I fix lights." Claire said nothing. She had heard stories like that in boardrooms, but always from the safe side of the table. Risk exposure, personnel conflict, reputation management, clean phrases for dirty choices. Isaiah closed the panel and stood. "Your guests can leave. Your press feed is still exposed, but contained. Your attacker still thinks the main route is active." Priya checked her tablet, amazed. "He is right. We are stable." A murmur of relief moved from the lounge into the corridor. Claire let out a breath she had not given herself permission to hold. "Thank you," she said. It came too quickly, too privately. Isaiah turned toward her. His face was calm, but his eyes were not soft. "Do not thank me where people can barely hear you." Claire blinked. Priya went still. Even Luis looked down. Isaiah picked up his tool bag. "Apologize where they heard you." The sentence did not rise. It did not need to. It found every corner of the hallway anyway. Claire's mouth opened slightly, then closed. She was used to being challenged by lawyers, board members, competitors, men in expensive suits who confused volume with courage. But this was different. Isaiah was not trying to win. That made him harder to dismiss. Evan stepped forward. "Miss Whitmore does not owe you a public performance." Isaiah looked at him. "No. She owes the truth a public correction." Claire's phone buzzed again. Marianne Bell. Then another call. Then another. Her empire was knocking from every direction. Isaiah's world was waiting outside an elementary school in the rain. He moved toward the service elevator. Claire followed 2 steps, then stopped herself. "Mr. Brooks, I can have a driver take you." "No, ma'am. It would be faster." Maybe. He pressed the elevator button. This time it turned green. But my daughter knows my truck. The doors opened. Before he stepped inside, Claire said, quieter now, "What is her name?" Isaiah looked back. For the first time, something gentle crossed his face. Maya. Claire repeated it silently, as if the name belonged to a world where people were waited for. Isaiah stepped into the elevator. The doors began to close. Claire stood in the red emergency glow, surrounded by money, glass, and all the words she should have said sooner. Just before the doors sealed shut, Isaiah added, "You have about 12 minutes before whoever did this realizes I left them a mirror." Then he was gone, descending through the tower, while Claire Whitmore remained upstairs with a building full of witnesses and one choice she could no longer outsource. Claire did not move for 3 seconds after the elevator doors closed. 3 seconds was a long time in her world. Long enough for a stock to fall, a contract to collapse, a board member to change sides. Long enough for a sentence to become a wound. Apologize where they heard you. The words stayed in the corridor after Isaiah was gone, more present than the emergency lights, more solid than the glass tower beneath her feet. Priya stepped closer, her voice low. "Claire, Marion has called 6 times. The board wants a statement before the press writes their own." Claire looked toward the VIP lounge. People were filing out in controlled lines now, shaken but safe. The little girl with the star bracelet had her face pressed into her mother's coat. Louise was helping an older guest with the stairwell door. Evan stood near the service hall, jaw tight, pretending not to watch Claire. Everyone was waiting to see which version of her would return. The CEO, the shield, the woman who could turn cruelty into policy if it protected the company. Claire took one step toward the lounge, then stopped beside the wall monitor. Her reflection looked back at her in the black screen. Perfect suit, perfect posture, empty eyes. She hated that last part. Most because it was true. "Open the internal audio," she said. Priya blinked. For the lounge. For the lounge, the press area, and the staff channel. Evan turned sharply. "Claire, that is not necessary." She looked at him then, not coldly, not loudly, but with the kind of stillness that made people remember who signed the building lease. "I did not ask what was necessary to you." Priya tapped her tablet. A soft chime sounded overhead. Conversations faded across the 60th floor. Claire walked back into the VIP lounge without hurry. The cameras were still there. So were the investors, the city officials, the caterers, the custodial crew gathered near the back, and the service staff who had been invisible until fear made everyone need them. Claire stood at the edge of the stage beneath her frozen company logo. No spotlight followed her. The emergency lights were enough. "A few minutes ago," she began, and her voice carried through every speaker on the floor. "I said something to a man who came here to return a child's bracelet." The room grew quiet in a different way. Not technical failure quiet. Human quiet. I looked at his uniform before I looked at his purpose. I treated his presence as a problem before I understood his character. That was wrong. Evan stared at the floor. Priya's face softened without smiling. Claire continued, each word costing more because each one was real. Mr. Isaiah Brooks helped a frightened child when the rest of us were too distracted to see her. Then he helped secure this floor when the rest of us were too proud to listen. He was owed respect when he walked in. He is owed an apology now. Her throat tightened, but she did not hide it. "Mr. Brooks, if this reaches you later, I am sorry." Nobody clapped at first. Apologies were not performances when they were done correctly. They needed space to land. Then the mother of the little girl whispered, "Thank you." Someone near the staff line repeated it. A custodian in a navy apron lowered his eyes. Claire saw him, really saw him. His name badge read Daniel. She wondered how long he had worked there. She did not know. That ignorance felt heavier than the outage. Priya stepped beside her and murmured, "The press feed caught that." Claire nodded. "Good." At the back of the room, Luis suddenly looked down at his diagnostic tablet. His face changed. "Miss Shah," he called softly. Priya hurried to him, and Claire followed. On the screen, a masked process had finally responded to the trap Isaiah had left behind. A digital route opened like a footprint in wet cement. Priya's voice dropped. The credential pinged again. Claire leaned closer. "Whose?" Luis hesitated, then turned the tablet. The name appeared in clean white letters. Evan Cole. The hallway seemed to shrink around them. Claire did not look at Evan immediately. She looked at the service elevator first, The one Isaiah had taken down through 60 floors of a building that had needed him more than it deserved him. Outside, rain streaked the glass in thin silver lines. Somewhere below, a father was trying to get to his daughter on time. Upstairs, the company's betrayal had just learned its own name. Claire did not say Evan's name out loud at first. She let it sit there on the tablet, bright and undeniable, while the room around her continued pretending not to understand. That was another thing powerful rooms did well. They waited for permission to know the truth. Evan looked at the screen, then at Claire, and his face arranged itself into outrage a second too late. "That is impossible," he said. "Credentials can be spoofed." Priya's eyes stayed on the log. "They can. But this route came through the physical security console." Louise swallowed. "The one in your office." Evan gave a humorless laugh. "So now the audio guy and the maintenance hero are running an investigation?" Claire lifted one hand. He stopped, but not because he respected her. Because he was calculating. She could see it now. The delay before every answer. The careful anger. The way he had tried to keep Isaiah from every door that mattered. Claire wondered how much truth had stood in front of her before, wearing work boots, carrying tools, speaking softly, while she listened to men like Evan because their suits matched the room. Her phone rang again. Marianne Bell. This time Claire answered. She put it on speaker. "Claire," Marianne said, crisp and breathless. "Tell me the press reports are exaggerated." Claire kept her eyes on Evan. The event was disrupted by an internal security breach. "Guests are safe. The building is stable." A pause. "Internal." "Yes." Marianne's voice sharpened. "Do not make accusations on an open line." "I am not making accusations," Claire said. "I am reading logs." Evan's jaw flexed. Priya looked almost proud, then quickly hid it. Marianne exhaled. "Contain this. Now. We cannot lose the city contract over a personnel issue." There it was. Personnel issue. Two clean words, small enough to bury almost anything. Claire looked toward the staff line near the back of the lounge, where Daniel the custodian stood beside a caterer holding a tray with trembling hands. She thought of Isaiah kneeling before a frightened child. She thought of him saying, "My daughter is waiting." She thought of the way he asked her to say his authorization clearly before he touched the panel. Not for pride. For protection. "No," Claire said. The word surprised even her. Marianne went quiet. "Excuse me. We are not burying this." "Claire, be careful." "I am being careful. For the first time tonight." She ended the call. The room seemed to inhale. Evan stepped closer, voice low. "You are making a mistake." Claire finally turned to him fully. "No. I made one earlier. This is the correction." She nodded to Priya. "Disable his access. Preserve every log. Contact outside counsel and the city liaison." Quietly, Priya moved immediately. Evan reached toward his radio, then froze when it gave a soft dead click. Luis lowered his tablet. Access disabled. Nobody touched Evan. Nobody needed to. The loss of permission did what force never could. It revealed how small a man looked without the system leaning toward him. Claire looked away first, not because she was afraid, but because she had another wrong to fix, and that one was 8 miles away in the rain. Isaiah's truck was old enough to complain at every red light. The windshield wipers dragged across the glass with a tired rubber scrape, pushing water aside just long enough for the city to blur back into shape. He drove with both. Hands on the wheel, tool bag on the passenger seat, phone mounted crooked near the air vent. 5:38. Maya would be trying to act brave now. He knew the stages. First she would tell her teacher it was fine. Then she would read the same page of her book 3 times without remembering a word. Then she would look toward the curb every time headlights passed. His phone rang. Unknown number. He ignored it. It rang again. He pressed answer without taking his eyes off the road. "Brooks." Claire's voice came through, softer than it had any right to be. "Mr. Brooks, it is Claire Whitmore." Rain tapped the roof. A bus hissed beside him. "I am driving." "I know. I will be brief." He almost smiled at that. People who said they would be brief rarely understood time. "I found the credential," she said. Isaiah's eyes flicked to the mirror. "Evan." Silence on the line. "You knew?" "I knew he was scared for the wrong reason." Claire absorbed that. He could hear it in the quiet. "His access is disabled. We are preserving the logs." "I also made the apology." Isaiah changed lanes. "Where?" "Where they heard me." The wipers scraped again. For the first time since leaving the tower, his shoulders eased by half an inch. "Good." Claire did not rush to fill the silence. That was new. Is Maya still waiting? She asked. Isaiah looked at the clock. 5:41. Yes. Then let me help without turning it into a transaction. He said nothing. Up ahead, brake lights stretched red along the wet avenue. Claire continued, careful now. There is a Whitmore shuttle 2 blocks from Lincoln Elementary, returning from a community program. I can ask the driver to park near the school awning with the heat on. Maya does not have to get in. She does not have to speak to anyone. She can just wait somewhere warm until you arrive. Isaiah's grip tightened slightly. Not because the offer was wrong, because help from people like Claire usually came wrapped in ownership. But this sounded different. No price. No favor named out loud. Just warmth near a child in the rain. Call the school office first, he said. Ask for Miss Alvarez. Tell her I approve the shuttle waiting outside only if Maya stays with her. I will. He heard movement on the other end, Claire already acting. Then she paused. Mr. Brooks. Yes. Thank you for telling me no. Isaiah watched the traffic light turn green through the rain. Most people do not mean that when they say it. Claire's voice lowered. I am trying to. He ended the call without answering. Not rude. Just finished. 10 minutes later, when Isaiah pulled up to Lincoln Elementary, a white shuttle idled by the curb with its hazard lights blinking gently. Maya stood under the awning beside Miss Alvarez, wrapped in her yellow raincoat, holding a paper map in one hand. When she saw his truck, her face opened like morning. Isaiah stepped out into the rain, and she ran to him, backpack bouncing. Daddy, you are late, she said, but her arms were already around his waist. He kissed the top of her hood. I know, baby. She leaned back and studied his face with 8-year-old seriousness. Did work get loud again? Isaiah looked past her at the shuttle, then up at the gray sky, then back at the child who made every hard day answerable. Yeah, he said softly, but not louder than you. The shuttle pulled away only after Isaiah gave the driver a small nod through the rain. No speeches, no handshake, just a nod between two adults who understood that a child's comfort did not need an audience. Maya climbed into the passenger seat of his truck, still holding the paper map she had drawn during after-school pickup. It showed their neighborhood in purple marker, with Lincoln Elementary, the grocery store, their apartment building, and a crooked star over a place labeled home base. Isaiah looked at it before starting the engine. This is new. Maya buckled herself in with the serious focus of someone doing an important job. It is our emergency map. Miss Alvarez said every family should have one. Smart woman. I put the bakery on there too, because emergencies might need muffins. Isaiah gave the first real smile of the evening. That is strong planning. They drove through downtown under a low gray sky, past towers glowing with office lights, past restaurants filling with people who did not know a building's 60 floors. Above them had nearly turned into a headline. Maya watched raindrops race along her window. She had always been quiet after waiting too long. Not angry, just careful. It hurt him more than anger would have. I am sorry I was late, he said. She shrugged, too small to know how much forgiveness she gave away for free. The lady from the shuttle said your work had a problem. Isaiah kept his eyes on the road. It did. Did you fix it? Some of it. Maya nodded, satisfied for 3 seconds. Then she asked, did anybody say thank you? The question reached places in him grown adults never found. Isaiah slowed at a yellow light and stopped even though he could have made it through. Someone did. Maya turned toward him. Did they mean it? Rain whispered against the roof. Isaiah thought of Claire's voice over the phone, lowered by effort, stripped of its polished edge. I think she is learning how. Maya accepted that in the simple, generous way children accept unfinished things. That is good. People can learn. Across town, Claire Whitmore stood alone in her private office on the 60th floor while the cleanup crews moved through the lounge outside. The gala was over. The contract was wounded but alive. Evan Cole had been escorted from the executive level without spectacle, his access frozen, his devices sealed for review, his authority reduced to a visitor badge and a stunned expression. Marion Bell had called twice more. Claire had not answered. For once, silence felt less like avoidance and more like a door she had chosen not to open. On her desk sat 3 things: the emergency briefing, a draft statement from legal, and Isaiah Brooks's temporary contractor file. It was thin, offensively thin. Name, address, work order history, background clearance. Nothing about Hale Meridian. Nothing about the vulnerability he had found. Nothing about the price he had paid for telling the truth in a room that did not want it. Claire opened the glass wall display and pulled up the archived vendor records herself. It took 4 searches before the old article appeared. Small publication. 2 years old. Buried beneath corporate responses and legal language. Former systems. Engineer alleges safety flaw in transit security upgrade. No photo. No follow-up. No redemption. Just a man turned into a footnote because a larger company had better lawyers. Claire read the article twice. Then she looked out over the city, where headlights moved like beads of light through the wet avenues. Somewhere down there, Isaiah was driving his daughter home in an old truck that probably needed new tires. Somewhere down there, a man she had dismissed with one sentence had left her a mirror and then chosen a child over applause. Her phone buzzed with a message from Priya. Preliminary review confirms internal manipulation. Isaiah preserved the only clean log trail. Claire typed back, "Send me everything." Then another message arrived, this one from the Whitmore shuttle driver. Mr. Brooks arrived safely. Child released to father. Claire stared at the words longer than necessary. Child released to father. Such a simple line. Such a complete world. She set the phone down, walked to the restroom off her office, and looked at herself in the mirror. The woman looking back was still composed, still powerful, still wealthy enough to buy almost any solution except the one she needed most. Trust. The next morning, before the markets opened and before the board could tell her how to shrink the truth into something profitable, Claire printed a new document herself. Not a standard consulting offer. Not a reward. A request. At the top, she typed Isaiah Brooks's name correctly. Then she paused, deleted the first sentence, and began again with words she was less used to writing. I was wrong. By 8:15, her black car was heading south through the city, away from the tower, away from the glass, toward an apartment building above a corner laundromat where a father was packing a lunchbox and trying to convince his daughter that blueberry muffins were not a complete breakfast. The apartment above the corner laundromat smelled like warm cotton, pencil shavings, and toast that had gone 30 seconds too long. Isaiah stood at the small kitchen counter with a butter knife in one hand and Maya's lunchbox open in front of him, trying to make grapes, crackers, turkey slices. And one stubborn blueberry muffin looked like a responsible meal. Maya sat at the table in her school sweater, swinging her feet, watching him with the serious disappointment of a child whose legal argument had been rejected. Muffins have blueberries, she said. Blueberries are fruit. Isaiah closed the lunchbox. Nice try, counselor. Miss Alvarez says we should support creative thinking. I support it after protein. Maya sighed like she had paid taxes for 40 years. Isaiah smiled and reached for her backpack. It was one of those rare morning moments when the world had not yet asked too much of him. The radiator clanked. The laundromat machines hummed below. Rainwater ticked from the fire escape outside the window. Then someone knocked at the door. Not a neighbor's knock. Not the quick tap of Mrs. Delgado from downstairs asking if he wanted extra plantains. This knock was careful, measured, almost uncertain. Isaiah looked through the peephole and did not open the door right away. Claire Whitmore stood in the hallway in a dark coat. No entourage, no security, no assistant balancing 3 phones beside her. Her hair was pulled back less severely than the night before. In her hands was a plain folder, not a gift bag, not flowers, not the kind of apology wealthy people bought when words felt too small. Maya slid from her chair and whispered, "Is it the lady who is learning?" Isaiah glanced back at his daughter. "Finish your milk." "That is a yes." He opened the door halfway. Claire looked up. For the first time since he had met her, she seemed aware of the doorway itself, aware that entry was not something she owned. "Good morning, Mr. Brooks," she said. "I know this is early." "It is." The answer had no sharpness. That somehow made it harder. Claire nodded once, accepting the boundary instead of stepping over it. "May I have 5 minutes?" Isaiah looked at the folder, then at the hallway behind her. "Empty. You came alone." "I did." "Why?" Claire inhaled slowly. "Because sending someone else would have been the same mistake in a nicer car." Maya appeared beside Isaiah's elbow despite the unfinished milk order, eyes bright with curiosity. Claire lowered her, gazed to the child's level, but did not bend too close. "You must be Maya." Maya nodded. "You sent the warm shuttle." Claire's face changed. "Just a little. I asked for it to wait." "That was nice." "Your father gave the instructions." Maya looked at Isaiah proudly, as if he had designed warmth itself. Isaiah opened the door wider, but did not invite Claire to sit. That was enough. She understood. The apartment was small, clean, lived in with care. Crayon drawings on the refrigerator. A school calendar marked in 2 colors. Work boots near the door. A photograph of Isaiah and Maya at Navy Pier, both squinting into sunlight, taped beside an overdue notice turned face down. Claire saw it and looked away quickly. Seeing was not the same as staring. She was learning the difference. She held out the folder. "This is not a reward," she said. "And it is not charity." Isaiah did not take it yet. "Then what is it?" "A request." He waited. Claire opened the folder herself, hands steady but not proud. Whitmore Civic Technologies needs an independent security advisor. Not someone to smile for the press. Not someone to clean up my reputation. Someone with authority to inspect our systems, document failures, and stop deployment if safety is compromised. Isaiah's eyes moved across the first page. The salary was more than he had made in years. He did not react. Claire noticed that too. "There is also a written apology," she said, quieter. "The first sentence says I was wrong because I was." Maya leaned toward the folder. "Does it have homework words?" Isaiah gently moved it higher. "Grown-up homework." Claire almost smiled. Almost. Isaiah turned a page. Then another. His face remained unreadable until he reached the personnel clause. He stopped there. "This says contractor access remains tiered by executive approval." Claire nodded. Standard language. Standard is how people disappear inside buildings. Claire took the sentence without defense. "What would you change?" Isaiah looked at her then. Not as a man being offered rescue. As a man deciding whether the room had truly changed or merely redecorated itself. "If I come back," he said, "every janitor, guard, driver, temp, worker, kitchen worker, and maintenance contractor gets a name badge people are required to use. Not a department label. Not service staff. A name." Claire listened. "Second, safety concerns can be filed without a manager burying them." Done. "Third, if someone reports a flaw, legal does not get to turn truth into misconduct." Claire's eyes lowered. Hale Meridian sat silently between them. "Done," she said again. Isaiah closed the folder. "And fourth, you do not put my face on a redemption campaign." Claire met his eyes. "I came here because I need your judgment, not your image." The room went quiet. From below, a dryer buzzed. Maya raised her hand like she was in class. "Can I ask one question?" Isaiah sighed softly. "Maya." Claire turned to her. "You can." Maya studied her with fearless seriousness. "Are you going to be nicer at work now? Or only today because you need help?" The question landed cleaner than any boardroom accusation. Claire did not answer fast. That was the first honest part. "I do not want to be nice for one day," she said. "I want to become someone people do not have to be afraid of." Maya considered this, then looked at her father. "That sounds hard." Isaiah picked up her backpack. "Most worthwhile things are." Claire stood in the middle of that small apartment, holding a folder full of money, power, and rewritten terms, and understood that none of it was the real offer. The real offer was whether a man she had insulted would trust her enough to hold her accountable. Isaiah handed Maya her lunchbox, then looked back at Claire. "I will read it after school drop-off." Claire nodded. "Of course." He opened the door, signaling the morning had to continue. As she stepped into the hallway, Maya called after her. "Miss Claire?" Claire turned. Maya held up the blueberry muffin in a napkin. "For learning." Claire accepted it with both hands, as if the small warm thing weighed more than the contract. Isaiah locked the door behind them, and for once, Claire Whitmore stood outside a closed door without feeling rejected. She felt measured, and maybe, if she did the work, invited by the truth. Isaiah read the contract that afternoon at his kitchen table, after Maya had finished her homework and circled the bakery twice on her emergency map for what she called strategic muffin reasons. He read every clause slowly, not because he distrusted every word, though some part of him still did, but because trust had to be built with eyes open. Claire had changed the personnel language. Every worker would have a name recognized in the building directory. Every safety complaint would go to an independent review channel. Every contractor could document concerns without losing access, pay, or dignity. At the bottom, beneath the salary, beneath the title, beneath the polished legal language, Claire had added one line in plain text. "No one in this company is invisible by policy or by culture." Isaiah looked at that sentence for a long time. Maya leaned against his shoulder, pretending to read it too. Is it good? She asked. It is trying to be. Trying counts if people keep doing it. He looked at her and smiled. Who taught you that? She shrugged. Maybe you. The next morning, Isaiah returned to the Whitmore Tower wearing his old boots and the same faded jacket. Not a new suit. Not a costume for people who needed success to look expensive. Claire met him in the lobby, not upstairs, not behind glass, but beside the security desk where everyone entered. Daniel the custodian stood nearby with his cart. Luis waited with a tablet. Priya held a revised access policy. Even the morning guards seemed unsure where to put their hands. Claire turned to Daniel first. Good morning, Daniel. The man blinked, surprised by the sound of his own name in her voice. Good morning, Miss Whitmore. She looked toward the front desk. From today on, names matter here. If someone works in this building, they belong in this building. No banner dropped. No music swelled. The world did not become fair in one clean moment. But Daniel stood a little taller. Luis smiled at his screen. Priya let herself breathe. Isaiah watched all of it without applause in his eyes. He had learned not to mistake beginnings for endings. Claire knew that too. She handed him a temporary badge with his full name printed clearly. Isaiah Brooks. Independent Safety Advisor. He accepted it, then looked at the security console. I want the full log archive first. Claire nodded. You will have it. And Evan? Under investigation. Outside counsel has the evidence. The city has been notified. Isaiah studied her for half a second. You told them before they asked? Yes. That must have hurt. Claire almost smiled. It did. Good, he said, not unkindly. Pain can be a receipt. The words stayed with her. By noon, Isaiah found the deeper trail. Evan had not acted alone. The breach had been designed to embarrass Claire, damage the city contract, and push the board into replacing her with someone more obedient. Marion Bell's office appeared in the metadata twice. Not enough to convict. Enough to start asking questions people would not enjoy answering. Claire stood beside Isaiah in the control room as the evidence unfolded across 3 monitors. Her face went pale, but she did not look away. My own board, she whispered. Isaiah's voice was calm. Rooms with power do not always protect the person at the center. Sometimes they just protect the room. Claire nodded slowly. This time, she did not ask him to fix it for her. She asked him to show her how to fix it correctly. Weeks passed. The investigation widened. The city delayed the vote, then restored it after Whitmore released the breach report in full. Staff meetings changed first in small ways. Name cards. Open reporting. Managers required to listen before speaking. Then in larger ways. Contract workers got safety briefings with actual authority. Maintenance teams had direct escalation access. The lobby stopped feeling like a place that sorted human worth by clothing. Not perfect. Never perfect. But awake. One Friday evening, Claire passed through the lobby and saw Isaiah kneeling beside the same little girl with the star bracelet, helping her clip it back onto her wrist while her mother laughed softly nearby. Maya stood beside him holding a paper bag from the bakery. She offered Claire a blueberry muffin without ceremony. Claire accepted it. For learning? She asked. Maya grinned. For continuing. Isaiah looked up at Claire, and this time when he smiled, it was not tired. It was not a shield. It was the quiet recognition that some people do change when truth costs them something, and they choose to pay it anyway. Claire looked around the lobby at Daniel, Priya, Luis, the guards, the guests, the people once unseen, now named in the ordinary light of a working day. She understood then that kindness had not made Isaiah small. It had made everyone else visible. And he had not raised his voice. He had raised her faith in people. If this story made you think about someone who stayed kind even when the world underestimated them, share that feeling in the comments. Tell us whether you believe respect can change a room before money or power ever can. Thank you for watching until the end of the video.